A lovely evening. You're watching QTV News at 7. The headlines. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, says it has not given the Zambian government conditions for the economic bailout package it is seeking. The Law Association of Zambia says any attempt to extend the constitutional presidential term of office threatens freedom of choice. The Nelson Mandela Foundation has called for South Africa's President Jacob Zuma to be sacked. For the details, my name is Michelle Malunga. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, says it has not yet given Zambia conditions for a possible economic bailout package. IMF Mission Chief Tsidi Tsikata says it is therefore premature to state that Zambia has already been given conditions. He says at the government's request, the IMF mission will return to Zambia in early 2017 to conduct Article 4 consultation and program discussions. Addressing journalists during a press briefing in Lusaka this morning, Mr. Tsikata says the Zambian economy continues to be under stress from the impact of external and domestic shocks and an unbalanced policy mix. He says the pace of economic activity remains sluggish in 2016, with growth projected at 3% due to continued electricity shortages, low copper exports, and subdued private sector consumption and investment. Mr. Tsikata points out that the government has been accumulating payment arrears to suppliers and contractors, adding that the stock arrears is projected to increase from 10 billion kwacha at the end of 2015 to about 20 billion kwacha at the end of 2016.
There is no package. I cannot discuss something that does not exist. We're going to come back, we're going to engage with the authorities on sort of the elements that are going to form part of a program, and what that does is it then sort of provides a framework, including a monitoring framework, which we can use to measure progress towards objectives that will be set under the program. So we'll come back, we'll engage the authorities, we'll discuss targets that are going to be set under the program, and jointly we monitor progress towards those targets aimed at achieving the objectives on a periodic basis. So there is no package, so it's premature to be talking about the contents of the package.
Speaking at the same briefing, Secretary to the Treasury Fredson Nyamba disclosed that a large part of the time that the IMF team that has been in the country for the past 2 weeks was spent discussing some of the measures that government intends to undertake in dealing with topical issues such as reducing government expenditure, phased clearance of arrears, and enhanced growth, among other topics. Mr. Nyamba says the fund has acknowledged the steps that the government has taken on moving towards cost-reflective pricing for petroleum products, which will free up resources for social sector spending.
A large part of the time was spent discussing some of the measures that government intends to undertake in dealing with topical issues such as 1. Reducing the government deficit to create room for private sector borrowing. 2. Related to the reduced deficit, a plan for monetary adjustment in the medium term. 3. Phased clearance of arrears, largely related to infrastructure development and energy. 4. Measures to increase social sector spending to address poverty issues. And 5. Measures to enhance growth prospects. For a complete picture of developments in the economy, the fund team met not only the Ministry of Finance, but also with the public and private stakeholders in sectors such as agriculture, mining, the banking sector, education, health, civil society, members of parliament, and cooperating partners. Let me now highlight some of the areas on which we reached consensus with the fund.
The IMF team, which has been in the country since October 19th, will leave today and is expected back for the commencement of the discussions early next year. The Law Association of Zambia, LAZ, says it is gravely concerned by the recent proposal by the ruling Patriotic Front member of the Central Committee, Paul Monga, that the constitutional presidential term of office be extended from 5 years to 7 years. In a statement, LAZ President Linda Kasonde says the purported rationale for this proposal that it is expensive to hold elections every 5 years is flawed. Ms. Kasonde notes that in a democracy, a government derives its legitimacy from the people of that country. She says because democracy is a form of government of the people, for the people, by the people, the process of consulting the people of the nation over who should be their leader is not cheap. Ms. Kasonde adds that the whole essence of democracy is that the people of a nation should have the freedom to vote in leaders of their choice and vote them out when they fail to deliver on their promises to a nation. She says LAZ is of the opinion that any attempt to extend the constitutional presidential term of office threatens that freedom of choice. Ms. Kasonde states that Mr. Monga's proposal is reminiscent to the third term debate that arose in 2000 when suggestions were made by the Constitution that the Constitution should be amended to allow President Frederick Chiluba to stand for a third term in office. She says LAZ believes that how and when Zambia's leaders can be elected into office is a fundamental part of the Constitution and should not be tampered with lightly. Meanwhile, Zambians have been urged not to allow the extension of the term of office for elected officials from the current 5 to 7 years. Governance activist David Kapoma says the Patriotic Front should not be allowed to take the motion of the extension of the term of office to Parliament. Mr. Kapoma says once the growing debate of the extension of the term of office reaches Parliament, it will not be stopped as the ruling party has numbers in the House.
Politicians have this tendency of throwing something to the public and try and see what kind of reaction they get. And this is exactly what the Patriotic Front has done. They decided to throw that idea to us, and the same thing that President Chiluba did when the third term came about. When people, and Paul Monga himself was part of the people that advocated for that, and President Chiluba came out and said, let the people debate, I'm not part of it. And this is exactly what might happen. My fear is that if this idea sees the pits of the parliament, my fear is that this thing might go through and we're going to be seeing ourselves extending the term of office for the members of parliament, because they're going to be doing it to champion their selfish ideas. But I think it's a call that is very untimely. It's something that should not come at this time when the country is faced with a lot of challenges that we're supposed to be concentrating on. But one can argue as well that potentially this is just an idea that came out so that we can now be distracted from discussing the important things. We should now start discussing what Mr. Paul Monga said about the 7 years, and we should not be going that route as a country. We're supposed to be taking matters serious, but I hope that this is not something that the Patriotic Front is going to be wanting to champion, because for the long time, we only have 5 years. And if they want to argue that 5 years is not enough for them to be able to develop the country, then how have the other countries done it? In the United States, the term is only 4 years. And many other countries, their term is 4 years. Most of the developed countries in Europe, talk of Denmark and other countries, it's 4 years term. How have they managed to develop? And why is the Patriotic Front now saying that 5 years is not good enough for them? If they think the 5 years is not good enough, then it's time that they need to work hard as a party and ensure that come 2021, people still vote them back into power and continue with their development agenda.
Mr. Kapoma alleges that the proposal by PF Central Committee member Paul Monga has the blessings of the PF leadership, which wanted to test how the Zambian people will react to such a proposal. Mr. Kapoma recalls that during President Frederick Chiluba's third term bid, the proposal was first brought out by an MMD member in order to test how the people would react. The Private Public Drivers Association has welcomed the move by government to sign a statutory instrument banning public service vehicles from operating at night. Association President Josiah Majuru says this will help in reducing the number of road accidents as drivers will have enough time to rest. Mr. Majuru has, however, noted that government should not just ban public service vehicles but also private ones, as passengers will now be resorting to hiking if they want to travel at night. More in the following report.
Government's decision to ban the movement of public service vehicles in the night has been received with mixed feelings by members of the general public. Some commuters talked to in Lusaka say the move is welcome as it will help in preventing road accidents.
A lot of lives have lost, so it can be significant commuters to make significant fines for their journeys. For example, it can be significant for them to be traveling during the day or else to introduce several buses going to a particular destination if a lot of people are going there.
In fact, more especially passenger vehicles, I'm sure it's a very good idea because we have faced many accidents and what people are dying. Look at 54 people, passengers, what. So it's better. In fact, it's a good idea so that they can be maybe moving. I'm sure during the day we can avoid such risks.
We have witnessed a lot of road carnage on the Zambian roads. A lot of people have lost lives in the process. So I feel it's a good move to help reduce road accidents which happen.
Others say accidents happen whether in the night or during daytime, and that the move is not fair, especially for business people.
Most of the accidents that are happening, they are not only happening at night. Some of them, they happen even during daytime. So to me, it's not a good idea. And I think traveling at night is safer than traveling during the daytime.
It's all the same. It's not a different thing, because even in the day there is accidents, so it's safe. If they ban, it's all the same, because even during the day there is a lot of accidents.
How are you going to do your business? Seriously, that doesn't make sense. So why restrict? Let them work on the roads first and they restrict the movements.
But the Public and Private Drivers Association of Zambia feels the move will work to the advantages of not the drivers, but also for the safety of passengers.
We've been complaining of drivers being overworked, drivers driving long distances without resting. So I think this SI, it's an added advantage to our side because drivers will have enough time to rest. Because from 05 to 22, meaning somebody can rest up to 05 the following day. But what is important is we want to sensitize our drivers and our members to make sure that they adjust on the timetable so that they work within the allowed hours. By so doing, we'll catch up with the SI and no one will be found wanting.
Transport and Communications Minister Brian Mushimba yesterday announced that government has signed a statutory instrument to ban public service vehicles from operating in the night. Lusa Kilale, QTV News, Lusaka.
We take a break. We'll be back after this.
Hatch your eggs the right way. Order the best and high-quality incubators today. Order today from Power Express, the distributors of Bledge incubators at very discounted prices, like a 96 capacity at only 3,000 kwacha, a 264 capacity at only 5,100 kwacha, a 528 capacity at only 7,200 kwacha, a 880 capacity at only 8,200 kwacha, a 1,056 capacity at only 11,200 kwacha. You can say Christmas came early. This is a gift from Bledge to all poultry farmers this summer breeding period. Bledge incubators, hatch your way.
We continue with the news. Green Party President Peter Sinkamba has backed President Edgar Lungu's stance to fire ministers and other government officials involved in corruption. Mr. Sinkamba says it is good that President Lungu has admitted that there is widespread and pervasive corruption among his ministers. He, however, states that President Lungu should not just end at warning the ministers and government officials, but go forward and fire those who are corrupt. Mr. Sinkamba says by firing these officials, President Lungu will instill confidence in the people of Zambia that he is committed to fighting corruption. He adds that firing corrupt officials will also deter would-be culprits of corruption. The opposition United Party for National Development, UPND, says the dismissal of its case by the Constitutional Court, in which it sought interpretation of the dismissal of the presidential election petition, is not the end of the quest for justice. UPND spokesperson Charles Kakoma has told QTV News that the party will continue pushing for the petition to be heard until justice is served. Mr. Kakoma says the UPND still has 2 more cases pending before the courts. He says the party is still seeking a ruling on whether UPND President Hakainde Hichilema and his vice Geoffrey Mwamba's rights to be heard were violated or not. Mr. Kakoma adds that the party is also seeking an interpretation of the failure by the Speaker of the National Assembly to act as Republican President when the petition was still before the Constitutional Court. Yesterday, the Constitutional Court threw out the case in which UPND President Hakainde Hichilema and his Vice President Geoffrey Mwamba were seeking the interpretation of the dismissal of their petition. The Economics Association of Zambia, EAZ, has disputed the sharp decline in the October annual rate of inflation to 12.5% from 18.9% in September 2016. EAZ President Crispin Mpuka says his association is finding it difficult to make sense of the fact that inflation has dropped by 6% in just 1 month despite the current price pressures. Dr. Mpuka says the EAZ does not think that the 12.5% inflation rate for October announced by the Central Statistical Office recently reflects the prices that are prevailing in the economy. He says the sense that his association is getting is that the base of the measurement scale of the country's inflation may have been changed. In an interview with QTV News, Dr. Mpuka says this is because there is no way that the inflation can drop by 6% when the prices of commodities are going up following the hike in fuel prices. He states that the EAZ has noted that the interest rates and the cost of accessing credit by the private sector are still very high. Dr. Mpuka states that this is why his association projected that Zambia's inflation can only be contained to single digit gradually over a period of 2 to 3 years. We take another break. Do stay tuned.
Aquamax Healthy Drinking Water, a quality product from Californian Beverages.
Hey, brother, there's an endless road to rediscover. Oh, if the sky comes falling down, there's nothing in this world I wouldn't do. What if I'm far from home? Oh, brother, I will hear you call. There's nothing in this world I wouldn't do.
Hello, you're watching Cube Business. This time around, we are at Okadeco Office Furniture Store, Ochre Trends. Here, you can get the very best of office furniture at very affordable prices. Now, these tables are executive, and I know that's definitely what's best for your office. Now, if you're looking to get yourself into the executive mood anywhere in your house, and I mean anywhere, Ochre Deco is definitely the place to be for you. You can get to Ochre Deco and get the very best of plumbing material. If you're looking to get yourself a pedestal pan or maybe a tumbler holder, a paper holder, this is definitely the place to be. After a busy day at work, now the best thing that you can get home to is a luxurious bed. And this you can get at Ochre Deco. You can get all this at very affordable prices, and you will definitely enjoy your rest and be ready for the next day. Ladies love matching things, from matching clothes to matching curtains, but at Ochre Deco you can get matching curtains regardless of what color your home is, because there's a wide variety of curtains regardless of what color your home is. You can get any type of curtain at Ochre Deco. Ochre Deco, along Kafue Road.
You're watching the QTV News at 7. Finance Minister Felix Mtati has observed the need to start clearing arrears owed to small and medium enterprises, SMEs, more especially in the agriculture sector, in a bid to promote wealth creation in the country. And the Finance Minister has reassured the nation that in removing wasteful subsidies, government will not tamper with those related to agriculture, but will instead maintain them and even increase them. Speaking when he received a 4.5 million kwacha dividend check by Nanga Farms at his office this morning, Mr. Mtati says the monies will be channeled to the Ministry of Agriculture to clear out the arrears owed to SMEs in the agriculture sector so that they continue to promote wealth creation in the country. Mr. Mtati says government is determined to accelerate efforts to industrialize and create jobs in line with the government's pro-poor policy. He is pleased that Zambia Sugar PLC, a major shareholder in Nanga Farms, has continued to make significant investments in the initiatives and develop business strategies that empower communities and smallholder sugarcane growers in Magobo, Manyonyo and other surrounding communities.
And they still, without necessarily consulting you, can we dispatch this dividend to pay some of the arrears that we owe, particularly for the SMEs, so that they can also begin to move and create wealth? And this will be the SMEs in the agriculture sector. So the entire amount will be dedicated and sent to the Ministry of Agriculture to address the SMEs in agriculture so that they can also begin to contribute to what President Lungu says agriculture is #1 priority. So let's not decompose this money in the general consumption of government operation, but let it be dedicated, 4.4 million kwacha, sent to them, to the Ministry of Agriculture, to deal with what we owe to the SMEs. Because we believe them too one day will be able to give us a dividend. And the only dividend we're looking for from the SMEs is if they can contribute to turning the wheels of economic growth. That is the only dividend that government is looking for. But unless we support them, we give them liquidity, this won't happen.
Speaking at the same event, Nanga Farms board chairperson, who is also Zambia Sugar managing director, Rebecca Katoa, says the pronouncement by President Edgar Lungu of his resolve to grow the agriculture, fisheries and livestock sector is an inspiration to the company, as they too are committed to ensure that they contribute to the growth of the sector.
A check of 4.4 million I think it sounds better if we call it billions in old money. So it's going to be 4,481,938, which represents, as I said earlier on, a 36% growth year on year. Honorable Minister, the increase in dividend for the year ending March 2016 attests to the fact that with the right support and commitment from our stakeholders such as government, growth can be assured. On our part, we want to reassure our stakeholders that our continuing path of integrity, empowerment, inclusiveness, commitment and accountability, which is driven by creating shared value in order to maximize productivity and profitability, will always be something that we cherish as we run our businesses. You will recall that during the opening of Parliament recently, the President actually reiterated government's focus on the agricultural sector, fisheries and livestock, around which other sectors will be developed in an integrated manner, such is what is stated in the 7th National Development Plan.
Government has assured pupils that there will be no interruption of electricity during the Information Communication Technology exams, which is scheduled to commence on 3rd November. Ministry of General Education spokesperson Hilary Chipango says schools taking part in the ICT exams have entered into an agreement with respective ZESCO stations to ensure there is no interruption of electricity. Mr. Chipango adds that the ministry has put in place measures to mitigate the challenges faced in the last year's ICT exams, which led to pupils writing exams very late in the night due to the limited number of computers in most schools. He says the ministry has distributed 5,000 computers to 300 selected schools countrywide as a way of mitigating the challenge of limited computers. Mr. Chipango says 30 schools per province have benefited from the 5,000 computers. The Information Communication Technology ICT exams will be conducted over a period of 3 days starting this Thursday to Monday.
Instead of writing this examination in one day, because you remember last year this examination was written in one day, and against a few computers, time and so on, this led to the spillover of the exam being written very late in the night, and in some cases the following day, which brought about a lot of inconveniences to the learners, the parents, and the teachers. So we have thought this time around that this computer examination practical exam should be spread in a period of 3 days. But this does not mean that they will have one task in the 3 days. The first group that will write on the 3rd of November will have a different task from those that will follow, so that there is nothing like a leakage. You are aware this is a practical examination, so any task can come as a practical question. So I would safely say we are more than ready and we do not expect any challenges, and we would like to take this opportunity to assure all the learners and the members of the public that we are on course to ensuring that the administering the computer studies examination this year will go on smoothly without any challenges.
North-Western Province Minister Richard Kapita has pledged to ensure construction works on the Chingola-Solwezi Road are completed on time after government released funding towards the project, which had stalled. Mr. Kapita says this is considering that government has prioritized the construction of this road as an economic project. He has told QTV News that he is confident that the criticism government has been receiving over the bad state of the Chingola-Solwezi Road will not be for too long. Mr. Kapita says this is especially that President Edgar Lungu has already made a directive that such economic roads be completed in the soonest possible time.
My priority, first and foremost, is to get Solwezi Chingola Road completed. This is an economic road, as you are aware, which brings out copper that goes out of the country. This is the same road that is used by all the mining companies to bring in inputs, machinery, and so on. And it's not in a very good state. Yes, there's been delays in release of funds to to the contractors, and sometimes they've stopped working. But I am pleased to state that His Excellency the President has stressed the point that for him, economic roads, including the Chingola-Solwezi Road, must be completed. And he went further and instructed the Minister of Defense to find resources to ensure that that road continues. I mean, the road works on that road continues, but the contractors can continue to work. So for me, that is a priority road, priority item. I'd like to see that road completed. I know that the UPND used it to the maximum to campaign our party, but it will not be for long. Because
We take a break. Don't go away.
There are moments in our lives that live forever. Moments like witnessing the thunderous call of a natural wonder, or experiencing the roar of the wilderness as its residents come to life, and the lively slither of a river teeming with untamed wildlife. There are moments in our lives that live forever. Moments like experiencing the adrenaline rush of close encounters with nature's thrills. The exquisite indulgence of luxurious treats kissed by the radiance of the African sky. The rhythmic movement of a people in celebration, whose tranquility and peace touch the hearts of those they encounter. There are moments in our lives that live forever. Many of them begin here. Zambia, one destination, a million adventures. Zambia, let's explore.
Discover new horizons and explore new destinations. Starting this September, Rwandair will connect you to Cotton from as low as 9,980 kwacha and to Abidjan for only 8,008 kwacha. Book now and enjoy a luxurious service coupled with unparalleled comfort. For more information, please call 0950-131-061 or 0968-345-259. Email sales.lusaka@rwandair.com or visit us at rwandair.com or contact your preferred travel agents. Terms and conditions apply.
Rwandair, fly the dream of Africa.
Welcome back. The Buses and Taxi Drivers Association of Zambia has welcomed the intention by government to increase the toll fees at toll gates by 100%. Association National Secretary Sidney Mbewe, however, states that his association only demands that government is prudent in the utilization of the resources realized in form of toll fees. Mr. Mbewe says the money collected should go towards the maintenance of roads as indicated by government. He says the association understands that by paying toll fees, they are paying for the roads they are using. Mr. Mbewe has since encouraged association members to support the government's efforts in maintaining and rehabilitating roads in the country. Evangelical Youth Alliance International Executive Director Moses Lungu says the newly created Ministry of Religious Affairs and National Guidance should strive to embrace all religions and churches in its operations. Reverend Lungu says the ministry should be all-inclusive with an open-door policy. He says the ministry should also be non-partisan but provide guidance to all Zambians in a fair manner. Reverend Lungu has expressed confidence that the ministry will help in upholding the country's Christian values. All is set for the first Regional International Leadership Conference, ILC, which will take place in Lusaka from 5th to 7th November under the theme addressing the critical challenges of our time, the role of government, civil society and faith-based organizations. ILC Media Relations Officer Marcel Museminari says the conference will also aim at emphasizing the important role of parliamentarians as representatives of the people entrusted with a great responsibility. He notes that if parliamentarians join hands in harmony and cooperation for the sake of peace, they can transform the current reality of the world, creating a world of joy, harmony and lasting peace. Mr. Museminari says good governance is secured not only by the policies and laws of the political system, but that it is also necessary for those who hold positions of power to be people of good character, guided by their conscience and universal moral principles. Mr. Museminari states that good governance also depends upon a well-educated and morally responsible citizenry.
If we're talking about sustainable development, then we should be talking about peace. We want our countries to be peaceful and prosperous. What is the formula? There are challenges that the world already faces. Let's say at the UN. The UN is having problems to solve the problems of Iraq for a long time. If you watch the media today, TV today, they will show you that there are thousands of troops trying to fight their way into one enclave called Mosul, a city that has been held by extremists. How do you deal with this? How do you make sure that if you dissolve these extremists, you will not create others? What is the formula?
Business consultant Windu Matoka has assured Zambians that the decision made by the central bank to restrict the cash withdrawal amount to 25,000 kwacha is in good faith. Mr. Matoka says the Bank of Zambia cannot come up with measures that would be retrogressive to the economy. He says before making any decision, the central bank does a cost-benefit analysis, after which they decide on whether to take any measures or not. Mr. Matoka says he is convinced that the Bank of Zambia knows what it is doing and it is in the interest of the nation. He has encouraged the business community to understand why the cash withdrawal limit has been placed at 25,000 kwacha and support the move if well intended. We take a recap of the local stories. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, says it has not given the Zambian government conditions for the economic bailout package it is seeking. The Law Association of Zambia says any attempt to extend the constitutional presidential term of office threatens freedom of choice. In international news, the Nelson Mandela Foundation, NMF, has called for South Africa's president, Jacob Zuma, to be sacked. He had failed the test to leadership, and South Africa needed to hold to account those who were looting state resources, it said. Mr. Zuma has been dogged by allegations of corruption for more than a decade. The call by the NMF, which is run by colleagues of South Africa's first black president, is the latest sign of growing discontent with his rule. Its intervention came as a court began hearing a bid Mr. Zuma's legal team to prevent the release of the report by former anti-corruption chief Thuli Madonsela. She investigated allegations that he let the wealthy Gupta family wield undue influence in his government. Both Mr. Zuma and the Guptas have denied any wrongdoing. Iraqi forces have for the first time entered the eastern outskirts of Mosul as they attempt to drive Islamic State militants from the northern city. A BBC correspondent traveling with the counter-terrorism service troops says they are facing very stiff resistance. Rocket-propelled grenades and small arms fire are being directed at them. Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi has told IS militants dug inside Mosul, which they held since June 2014, to surrender or die. Speaking at the airbase south of the city on Monday, Mr. Abadi declared that government forces were approaching from all angles and would cut off the head of the snake. About 50,000 Iraqi security forces personnel, Kurdish fighters, Sunni Arab tribesmen and Shia militiamen are involved in the offensive to drive the IS militants out of their last major urban stronghold in the country. And on that note, we end the news. For these and more stories, be sure to log on to our website and be sure to join us for our next bulletin at 10 p.m. Good evening.